So you were. I want to focus on the first time you went in and try to do the whole story of that first time.
Okay.
The first time you went in and what happened. So we're talking about what time a day did you leave when you left Dartmouth? About.
I don't have that time with me from a rendezvous point.
It's about maybe about 2 a.m.
20 miles out.
Maybe about 2 a.m. or something like that? Or?
No, it would be. We were still underway in the channel
Okay.
at 2 a.m. At about 5 a.m., I saw an Army dive bomber hit one of the gun emplacements, the big concrete gun emplacements on the beachhead, and we were thankful that it hit them all. But and as we gathered, it was still dark, and we left the main rendezvous area at about 5. Let's see, if we were to hit there at 6:30, took an hour. At about 5 o'clock, we were in the rendezvous area, and that's where they lined us, got us in line. The 6 was supposed to be 6 to go in.
The 6 abreast, is that right? The way you were lined up?
Abreast,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
We were to go in abreast, and we took off and went full speed, and anticipating 2 pilot boats.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't there, so we just headed for we could get a rough outline of the beach when there'd be a clearing, when the mist would clear or so, and the smoke from artillery would clear. We could tell we were heading for the beach, and till we got close to it, you couldn't really tell what part of the beach we were. And then by the time we realized what part of the beach, we were a mile off. But there wasn't anything we could do about it. We had no commander of the 5 of us then. We just individually had to say to ourselves, we're going to the beach, and we're going to that opening. And that's what we aimed for, that opening, which turned out to be the wrong one. But it turned out in the long run, Huey, that the Army, Navy, and the whole operation used that entrance from then on. And so it made you feel a little better that at least maybe it was useful.
Now, were you the first boat that went into that entrance then? Or
I don't think we were.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't see any.
Okay.
We didn't see any ships. We didn't seem like we were following anybody. We're just knew what we had to do and went straight ahead. And I don't know that we, according to the records, the first wave was
H plus 220.
the first wave was had demolition men in it and men to destroy as much of the obstacles as they could, because the beachhead was just full of these obstacles. And luckily, at high tide, they're covered up.
Mm-hmm.
If we'd have hit one, it would have been from probably an acoustic mine, and we'd been run over. But luckily we didn't. And
so okay, now as you were coming over, Of course, we've been told over and over that it's the biggest armada in the history of the world and everything. What did you see? You say it was mist as you were coming over the channel. It was rough seas. Plus, it was mist.
Yes.
Just tell me what you were seeing and hearing as you were piloting your ship over.
Well, you've probably seen pictures of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what they were. Just ships all over. There's an armada headed for certain rendezvous. Some of them might have been heading for a different rendezvous than we were. But somehow we all stayed together. In fact, we had to waller around that night because Eisenhower postponed it one day. And we were just wallering around, wasting time out there in the channel until finally the message got to us and we went into Weymouth Harbor and got a few hours sleep before they said, okay, let's go, we're going. And so we left Weymouth Harbor probably about 1 o'clock in the morning and headed for our rendezvous, and that was the beginning of the invasion. The operation was so large, many times you had no idea what the other guy was doing, but you were doing his job, he was doing his job. It was just a mammoth operation. I could say the first guys that came in were to try and clear the way for others in various ways, and it's like Roosevelt said, he came in on a you couldn't hardly say wave. It came in first wave, second wave, because they blended. The whole thing became a blend. And Roosevelt said, well, where we are, what's his famous mark, the war starts? This is where the war starts, or something. He was quoted then.
We'll start the war here? Or
we'll just start the war here. He knew it was wrong place, but he said, that's all right, we'll just start the war here.
And okay, so as you were coming over, you were aware there was some protection. Wasn't there some overhead protection from the Allied planes?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
but you were mostly focused, and the weather was bad. You said it was because of the weather that it was delayed, right? Was pretty bad.
If you're talking about going over from United States to
no, just from England, just in the channel. Was the weather really bad, rough seas?
It was choppy, and we were overloaded. They had a line on the LCT, which was supposed to be the limit of loading. Hell, it was underwater, and the deck, the choppiness of the water, put water on the deck of the LCT. So the guys had to splice through water.
How loaded were you, Dad? How loaded were you down? How loaded were you?
Oh, I have no idea how much, but we were definitely overloaded.
You were below the line too.
Yeah, the LCT was overloaded, but who never questioned that.
Okay.
We were complaining about that.
How old were you when you were the skipper of this? What's your birthday?
March 13th, 1921.
Okay, so then you would have been 23 years old. You're 23 years old,
Right.
and what were you experienced as you're going over? You're going towards a fairly well defended beach fortress, Europe. And were you feeling apprehensive at all? Were you fearful at all? Or?
On the way in from the rendezvous area till the time we landed, and especially the times when they were throwing us, they're hitting us all around with mortars. Maybe I shouldn't admit this. Instead of praying, I cursed them. You sons of a bitch, you can't hit us. You just had the feeling, you can't be hit. Fortunately, we weren't. But each person, I'm sure, had their own feelings about it. Mine in particular was that you SOBs, you can't hit us. And we had everything prepared for some things foolishly. They had to wear a gas mask protection, which was just more cumbersome. And I had a camera with me, and I never took a picture. Too busy, and too much in the way with the gas mask hanging around me and all that. So
anyway, where were you when the mortars were coming all around you? You're still coming in, or?
I would have to estimate from the land portion of the sand and up. We were probably 2 miles out.
Okay.
A mortar isn't very good for
Right.
much more than 2 miles.
Okay.
And they had us pretty good. They're I don't know whether they had a spotter. They might have had a spotter trying to tell their people that. Yeah, I just don't know what they're. I don't
Okay.
know. What
Now,
they're-
were some of those mortars hitting some of the other boats or ships around you? Do you notice that?
some of the-
Were some of the mortar shells hitting some of the boats or ships around
the
you?
one
Did you
right
know?
next to me, that's the one that got his gas line broken.
So, when that was hit and breaking the gas line, were you aware of that at the moment that hit?
No, we didn't know he got
Okay.
hit. That's what I was worried about.
Uh huh.
He wasn't pulling off the beach, and I was afraid he'd fouled his anchor cable, which is really time consuming.
And so then, by the time when he got hit, you were pretty close to the beach. Then, is that correct?
We were on the beach
Okay.
as far as was practical for us to go. It was kicking up enough sand.
Okay.
And I said, "That's all. We'll just keep on driving." But we're going against the anchors here, and we're going against we're going as far as we could get up on the beach.
So when you start kicking up the sand, there's still how much water between you and the actual ground then?
It was probably 5 feet.
About 5 feet of water.
About 5
Okay.
feet of water.
Okay.
And we started hitting the sand would start boiling up, and it went till the boil became quite furious before I said drop it, and we kept pulling ahead as far as we could, because we wanted to make a landing as easy as possible for the equipment.
So I mean, let me just get this clear. That was it such that at this point you don't want to settle onto the land. You're actually staying.
Well, the beachhead when it's out is a mile.
Right, I understand. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
It's a long.
It's a long, most unusual
Right.
landing area you'll ever find. Because when the water is out, you've got hard sand. Can you believe that sand? They drive trucks on it.
But let me get this clear.
Yeah.
I mean, because you didn't want to totally land because you wanted to go back out. Is that correct? Is because you
Yeah. Well, when the load is off,
right,
you're back afloat.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you went any farther and then you were totally on the ground, then you would have to wait for the tide to return. Is that correct? If you went even farther up,
if we got up too far, and the tide was taking the water out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
Then you'd be stuck then.
It'd be embarrassing.
Yeah.
You run out of
You're
anchor
out there
Right.
and you're not
Right.
getting up.
Right.
But when because the load went off quickly,
Okay.
in a matter of time, it was probably who knows? I have no idea. I just guess 3 minutes, maybe. They got
Okay,
out.
the load
they
off.
practiced it.
Okay.
They knew what they were doing.
Okay, and then so to such. The ramp goes down, and I'm thinking let's say this is the bottom of the boat,
Yeah.
and the ramp goes down like this, and then it goes down. So then they're not really in the water too much. I mean, you don't want. Is that correct?
No, they weren't. They were not
Yeah.
very deep in water.
Right.
Deep enough that their cosmoline was valuable.
Right.
They had
Right.
all
Or the
equipment.
grease that's keeping it waterproof. So
yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Except for the captain's
Weasel.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened
Okay.
there.
So they
Just stopped working right
so
as
once he
soon as
got
I
out of the way, the men pushed him out of the way. Everything got off, and then they got up
ran
on the
off.
beach.
We're fully afloat,
Uh-huh.
and we suck in the anchor till the man on the anchor pull on the anchor, and that would pull us. That would keep us backing off straight, and keeping us from getting fouled. The cable from becoming fouled in the. That was the biggest danger you have is that cable dropping down in the water, and you have three propellers, and one could catch the cable, and you're in a world of trouble. So you keep attention on that stern cable, and soon as the equipment is off, we're afloat, and the cable and the anchor becomes quite important.
Okay, so your mission was really accomplished well. So I mean, I'm saying a lot of the LCTs didn't do so well, but your mission was really accomplished pretty close.
We did it well.
Oh, right.
It was like LCTs, like the man knows for. We did whatever they had us do. We were somehow figured out how to do it right.
So that
do
was
it well.
that was your first mission, and thankfully then you went out. From then you went out to meet the LST. Is that correct?
After that, yeah, they sent us to just work night and day unloading vessels.
So then you were working night and day, over and over, marrying with the LSTs out there to bring stuff that was sitting
Basically,
offshore.
we were through with that. Yeah, the one time maneuver, we didn't have to perform anymore.
Okay, so first you went and unloaded on the shore, then you went to LST and did that once. You did married with that
That was
one.
the end of day for me.
Okay,
for us.
okay. And then tell me again, what did you get off that LST to go back? And let's talk about that second. That was your second time coming on the beachhead, and that was still on D-Day. So tell me a little bit more about
It was the
that.
afternoon. By then it was
Okay, so that was the afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you finally, thanks to your men going on the LST, you were able to. They had the ramp went onto your stern, and what did you take off from the LST then? What was everything that you loaded that time?
I don't remember what kind of equipment.
Was it some more equipment?
Yeah.
More equipment? Okay.
Mobile equipment.
Okay.
Some kind.
Mobile equipment. And how far out? You were a couple miles out or so, was that right, when you met with LST?
Yeah, we were several miles out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're several miles. So then you went back in the afternoon. Now, when you went back in the afternoon, things probably looked different when you got on the beachhead. Maybe tell me more what you were seeing.
It was just more action, more people were landing, more equipment was on. You could see more equipment on the beachhead, and the mortars had stopped. The Army in the meantime had stopped that, had found them and took care of that. We didn't have any more. Our craft particularly, and when I say we, were fortunate enough not to have to face any more artillery until I think it must have been D-Day +3, and we were, by then a causeway had been built out on the beachhead, out into the water. And they were empty barge-like devices that they attach one to the other.
Uh-huh.
They drag them from England,
Uh-huh.
and then they fill them with water.
Uh-huh.
And so they sat on the sands of the beach, regardless of what the tide did. They stayed there because they were filled with water, and so by then we had a landing spot. We didn't have to go and do this drying out procedure. In some cases, it took care of that. We could drop our ramp right on that causeway, and they'd run right off and be on their way. And this time, on about the third day, of course, then you're pretty confident everything's safe, and we were racing with one of my buddies to see who was going to land. There was only one landing spot on the racing to see it. I won, and so he's out there laying to, waiting for us to get off, and the 88s caught us somewhere. Somebody, maybe it's a church tower. You hear about. Somebody was spotting us, and I mean, he was close. And those 88s are devastating. They scream at you. They go over your head. They just scream, and they are a devastating piece of equipment. And they had us bracketed, and so I called out to the bow. I said, "Cast off all lines. We're getting out of here." So we pulled off. We weren't going to continue to try and unload with those things around. So we pulled off, and my friend, he laughs about it. He said, "Yeah, you beat me." He's laughing there. You got bracketed, and he was far enough away. They weren't trying to hit him. But we had.
So I just want to make something clear. Okay, when you say you saw them bracketing you, so in other words, a shell was going on one side, then a shell was on the other side, or maybe front and back, and you knew the next one would probably be right in the center of your boat. Is that what you're saying?
You just figured that you're lucky they aren't hitting us, but we're not pulling off. We're going to unload, and which we did. We didn't let them face us. The job was to get the equipment on.
So, but you did. I mean, you could see the handwriting on the wall that the way that they were bracketing you, because the next one would probably be right in the middle of your boat.
You'd hope not. They weren't good shots, I guess.
Okay, but
anyway,
so were you able to? You say were you able to load everything before you pulled off, or did you?
Yeah,
you
everything.
Unloaded everything
Yeah.
and then pulled off. When you pulled off, you got out as quickly as you could. Then
When we pulled off, we just got the hell out of there. There was no place to be.
But you thought when you saw the causeway and everything that things were peaceful. You thought that maybe the Army had everything under control on land and everything.
We had no contact with them, so we couldn't tell them you're missing us. They must have had the Germans must have had a spy somewhere, or some personnel directing their line of fire, because they were very close. Very close.
Now, so was that the last time? Because they were getting things in control on land during that time period.
At the time of those of the '88 attack, I think our 621 was the only one at the time on the beach.
So you were the only boat that was unloading on the beach, as far as you say.
I don't recall any others being there.
So you were fortunate they didn't hit you then.
Yes, absolutely. It was just a matter of luck.
Now,
Luck and bad positioning of their people.
Now, did you see? Was there a lot of soldiers that were falling on the beaches and stuff like that?
We didn't. First of all, the first beach, what do they call it? The first beachhead was only about sand was only about 5 or 6 feet high. Then the next one was about 12 feet high. It would be, in other words, when they take pictures, you would see the outline of the second one.
You're talking about sand dune? You're talking about the sand dune?
Sand dunes, yeah.
Right. Oh, okay. But there was no time where you saw, I mean, I've heard other stories about where, like, there were fallen soldiers, like, in the water and on the sand, so like that, but you didn't see anything like that.
In the several days we worked in and out of the beachhead, we never saw a floating body. But there were some.
Dad, did you experience any other ships getting
Yeah, they
hit
would be
big time?
likely to be Navy or people from the ones that have been from landing craft that had been blown up or patrol craft. There were so many, quite a number of them that were sunk by these mines. The minesweepers had they tried to pull in, tried to make a path through all the mines, and I'm sure they did a pretty good job of it, but a lot of it was luck and bad luck in hitting them and good luck in missing them.
So when you first went in, the first time, did you see ahead of you some of the landing craft already
No, we
blown
couldn't
up?
didn't see any of them.
Didn't see that first
No,
you
we
didn't.
didn't see any of the obstacles, in the water obstacles.
So it
And tide went out. When tide went out in future efforts to hit the beach, you could see them, and naturally you'd stay away from them. Because he had those old railroad ties and whatever all tied together, you know, and pulled that to put a hole in your craft and it hurt big time.
So, but even though you didn't see them, you were aware that they were there somewhere. Were they?
we were aware, and we couldn't do anything about it. They weren't visible.
So when did you start seeing that some crafts ahead of you that were blown up? Was it later in that day, in the second run that day, or was it in later days?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
by then I hadn't had any sleep for 2 days and nights. We were. I don't recall that second trip. I was so glad to get the second trip on the beach and unloaded and out of there.
So how many days were you going back and forth? After you unloaded the LST and went back, then did you go back to England after that?
No, never met.
Never went back to.
Only when they withdraw the whole flotilla of us and the whole group. In the meantime, luckily, 6 of us got to go to Brittany Peninsula and work that harbor, which is totally different. We worked there. They had an anchorage area, a natural anchorage area big enough for moderate-sized ships to get in, and they had a gate on it, a submarine gate. They built up land and left a small opening in this anchorage area, and they'd have one little Frenchman would close the gate from submarines or whatever every night. We would unload ships there, and we would go up. It's 10 miles from there up to the town of Morlaix. A city of Morlaix. It was a small city, and they had dockside service there. They had a gate, they had a passageway into their docksides and so forth. it, well, let's see, what do you call those?
Locks? Had the locks?
Locks, yeah. We'd go through the locks, and we only had now the only the Americans said we can do it, but others said you can't do it. They had the opening going through those locks. We had about a foot on each side, and I mean you had to hit it right.
What happened that one night that you were at dinner and could be said you had a couple of beers, but what happened on the way back, Dad?
On the way back.
From that dinner?
Oh no, this is another thing. This is when we went to see the girls up in Roscoff. We heard there was a nice family up there that had some girls, and so naturally, when you're in an operation like this, you get to the dockside. You got time until they get that thing unloaded, and so you get ashore and make friends or whatever. And we went to this nice home, and the mother of a couple of the girls, and she had her girlfriends come in. Well, we'd come up there, and they were wonderful entertainers. Her husband was a naval officer in Africa, in the Mediterranean area, and we just met the girls and tried to make conversation in French and English, yeah, and very enjoyable evening. Anyway, the next morning we stayed at the YMCA that night, and facility they had, and next morning we're in a Jeep going back to Morlaix, where our crafts were located, and we're going down this twisting tidal river in this Jeep, and all of a sudden we see an LCT out there. What's this? He was up on land. Bianca, my second officer, missed a turn, and he was up with the LCT on the pasture. And you'd think they didn't laugh, because until we got close, we didn't know whose it was. We said, "Whose is it?" Oh my God, it's mine. And luckily, he got up enough on, you know how running water will carve out a bank.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He was, luckily, the ship, say this is the ship, luckily he got enough of it on that it didn't break its back and fall back into the... But, oh yeah, we had sheep in the pasture. Oh.
And then there was a time you were going out and you ended up heading towards the submarine.
Oh, that's a different time, yeah.
Okay.
We enjoyed our stay in Morlaix, because it broke the monotony. By then, it was just absolute monotony, going back and forth and back. You know.
So you're just going out to the ships at the anchorage.
Yeah.
That's right, and just unloading back and
Yeah.
forth. That was your job, just to.
It was.
Okay.
It got monotonous.
Okay.
And the guys that had to stay there were not happy about having to stay there. They were jealous of us, because we had a variety of incidents, different landings and different excursions to try your seamanship and so forth. Like going to the Roscoff, we pulled out of the Morlaix anchorage area and go. Of course, the nets were taken down, and we go out and we're back in the channel, and we go clear around the hook, a couple of big hooks. We go past a number of places we pulled in, but we finally get to. We pulled in Cherbourg, and I'll never forget that we pulled in. I don't remember whether it was Cherbourg or not, but I got a flashing message coming. You are anchored in unswept waters. And you think, oh my God, we get a paddle. We got to paddle out of here. So one thing you could do but run your engines and your propellers at about the slowest speed you could to ease out, not make any big noise or waves or anything. You just sneak out. You get out of that anchored area, unswept area. And that was on the way to Morlaix.
So when you say unswept, I mean, was unswept for mines mainly, or also submarine?
Well, that could have been what they. It would have been mined because they'd been in there. They would have mined it, and so a minesweeper had gone in and tried to clear the operation of mine, clear the beach port. But unfortunately,
he was going to have to go pretty soon.
Okay, man.
I think you're going to want to get the popcorn story.
Oh, okay.
That's my thing. That's all I was shoot.
Oh, 15.
Oh, this is a
okay.
funny story. Yeah.
Okay.
We got acquainted in Morlaix.
Okay.
One of the guys said, "Hey, you want to do something different in Morlaix? There's a family up there that got a couple of pretty girls, and you go up and visit them. They were very friendly, and so I looked up their address and went up there, and they were living in a very modest home, and it's true they had two beautiful daughters, both of them married, both of them had children. The one of them had her husband had volunteered for French resistance, and they hadn't heard from him in months, so they didn't know whether he was alive or not. But anyway, my mother would send me some care packages once in a while, and this one reached me, and she sent some popcorn seeds. You know? So I took them up there. I said, "Oh, they'll enjoy these." And they looked and said, "Well, what?" They had no idea what they were doing. And I said, "Well, I'll show you." And in a way, I felt a little badly about this because they had to use their coals and their fuel, and I probably used it a day or two of their heat to get this damn thing hot. But they couldn't imagine what I was going. I said, "It's more heat, and cover them. Now it's time to cover them." And they're all just running. What is this guy nuts or something? And pretty soon, oh, explosion! They had this big popcorn, but they could not imagine what was happening. There's an explosion. Oh yeah, they were nice people.
So did they like it when you ate it? Did they like it when you?
Oh, the French ones?
Yeah,
Oh,
did
yes.
they like to eat the popcorn?
Oh, yes, they like us. But you also became aware, I became aware of the problem they had in France with communism. This port, and naturally, the port laborers, they'd beat a little communist flag in their window. You'd see that, and first you'd say, "Oh," and then you realize, well, that's what they had to do something, you know. You became aware that they had a position that they were trying to defend, the communism. And we were ashore. I forgot to tell you about that. We were ashore when several of us decided to get out of the main part of town and take a walk out the edge of town. So we did. We saw a building there with a bunch of bicycles and vehicles of various sorts around it, and it was a tavern, a bar. I said, "Let's go in," and we went in, and the place was full. All of a sudden, there was a hush. I mean, a hush. Nothing. Boy, we said, "What are we into?" You know, looking at each other. What are we? And pretty soon, a man comes up to us, and he could speak English. And by then, we realized that it was some form of resistance of some kind. And so he says, we'll drink a toast. You drink a toast to Stalin, and we'll drink a toast to Roosevelt. Said, okay, that's good enough. So that got by us, that confrontation. But they were full. It was a communist meeting. Didn't know it. And but we didn't stay. We drank a toast, and of course, the language difficulties are not too much important in hanging around. So we got the experience, and we made friends with them. They understood, and we understood. Yeah.
Well, okay, now you have to leave soon. Now, one thing I want to do, maybe to catch on tape, just talk a little bit about who you were before you went in. Just a little bit. I mean, you were a young man. Did you go to Millikan University? Is that right? Or
Millikan, yeah, I'd come from Millikan.
Okay,
and they sent me to. I got to finish my year by joining the Naval Reserve, and.
So maybe even go back farther. Where were you born and raised then, basically?
Born and raised in Decatur.
Okay.
Yeah.
Born and raised in Decatur.
My folks all came from Mount Zion.
Okay,
Aunts, uncles, cousins, my folks,
so
my grandfather.
So you say your parents grew up in Mount Zion?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Parents grew up in Mount Zion, and then even your grandparents were in Mount Zion.
Oh yes, he was a doctor, medical doctor.
Our family came to Mount Zion in the 1700s.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
No, eight. I'll get back in. We've been in Macon County for at least 100 years. Yeah.
So
We'd
thinking
go
into
out
1800s, definitely. Okay.
We'd go out and visit Mount Zion about every week. After Sunday church, we'd go out to Mount Zion, and every time we go out there, it'd be Mount Zion, population 400.
That's when you were living there. When you were growing up, was about
Yeah,
400
yeah.
people.
It was population 400. It stayed that way. Yeah, for quite a few years now. All of a sudden, it blossomed.
Okay, so you went to Mount Zion. Was it Mount Zion High School when you went then?
Yeah, they had a high school. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Was it called Mount Zion High School?
Yes, it was.
How
My
many-
mother would hop the little train to go to Decatur,
Mhm.
and she graduated from Decatur High.
Because there was no high school when your mother was going to high school. She had to hop a train.
Yeah, I don't think there was a high school then. No.
Okay. So then, after you graduated from Mount Zion High School, you went to Millikan University. Is that right?
No, I didn't. No, I was still living. My dad left Mount Zion and came to Decatur. He was in the banking business,
Okay.
and he joined the Citizens Bank. And before he did that, he went out to North Dakota to a little town, and he and some men put together a bank
Okay.
in the boonies of North Dakota, and and he stayed there a year. They got the bank started, and came back to Citizens Bank, and stayed at Citizens Bank till 1931, 32, and he moved to Millikan Bank.
Oh, okay. Now, what did you do after high school? What year did you graduate high school?
43.
Okay, so you graduated high school in
No, I didn't. It's,
Okay.
I'd gotten involved in so many different activities. I was not a good student,
Okay.
and my dad knew some people who've been sending their sons to Lake Forest Academy.
Okay.
So that's where I was a junior and senior year at Lake Forest.
Okay. So that's where you graduated from Lake Forest Academy, and that was the high school you graduated from.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
And then did you go to college after that?
Yeah, then I went to Millikan, direct to Millikan, and all during my senior year, I belonged to the reserve, but they let us finish school.
So you were in the Navy Reserve for your senior year at Millikan.
Yeah, it became. They had a certain name for it, V7 or V5
Okay.
or something like that.
So-
where they allowed you to finish school, and I went to Columbia University for midshipman school.
And that was what, in 1943?
Yeah, fall of '43.
Well, fall of 43, okay. And then,
Yeah, from then on, I went, after midshipman school, I went to Solomons, Maryland. And Solomons, Maryland, too. Oh, yeah.
Do you mind
That
if
was
we, since
quite a
we've got
fraternity, man.
About 10 minutes left. Would you mind if we switch gears and actually skipped all the way to the end? Would you mind?
The end of the story now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Would you mind if
Uh-huh.
just for the
Yeah,
the
okay.
tape?
Okay,
Sorry.
he wants to talk more about the end of your Navy career more.
When you wrote that letter on
Oh.
VJ Day, yeah. Maybe,
Well,
maybe
you see,
talk about that.
after I got through in Europe, I came back to England. Let's go back to England. We went back to our home port, Devon and River Dart, and so then somehow or other they gave us a chance to indicate what part of the Navy service you wanted to join,
Mm-hmm.
because you were through with that. And so this was around Christmas time. So I said, still being a cocky, stupid
Mm-hmm.
kid, I said, I want gunboat duty in the Pacific. I said, I got by this one without a scratch. And so they signed me up for gunboat duty. And I went to, they give you a couple of weeks leave. So from San Francisco, I went troop carrier boats to ships to Pacific area, and I spent a month at least hopping around islands trying to find this LCIG gunboat. I couldn't find it. It was down in Borneo, making Borneo landings. And
They
so
tell you where to go, then you'd have to find it. They tell you
Yeah,
where to go, then
I'd
it's up to you
every
to go find them.
port, I'd say, see if you can find it, and they'd say, well, last we heard them, they were such and such. So I'd hop one was a destroyer escort, and another was whatever airplane, whatever vehicle I get to the port where they were last, but they wouldn't be there. So I finally just gave up. Well, they say they're going back to the Philippines. So I got back to the Philippines and got on them at Subic Bay, and they were an LCI. If you know, the LCI carries infantry. Well, this is one of the first ones. It was LCI 6.5. So you know it was an early one, and the old square con instead of the new rounded ones. And all the equipment for carrying personnel had been taken off, but they put loaded with guns, nothing but guns, and artillery pieces, and all the people on board were gunners' mates. And this LCIG was designed to go in as close as you could on shore, and just, unless they were told to hit a certain place, you just, as we would say, serenade the beach. Just throw everything you got at it, and you don't know where it landed or anything. You just serenaded the beach with fire from the sea. And by then we were given, this ship was given assignment to Japan at a certain island, certain part of the island. No, we had our instructions, and we were waiting to go. And along came the big bombs, the two big ones, and that stopped it. Harry said, "That's enough." And so the next orders we got were to go to Korea as an occupation. So we went to Korea, and this poor old weather-beaten, time-beaten LCIG. We go to sea on the way to Korea. By then I was designated landing craft. I had to look and see where Korea was. And I had to navigate to. Anyway, we got to Okinawa, and they'd had a big storm. Some ships were still broached, as you say, broached on the beaches because of a big storm they had.
Was it typhoons that they had?
Yeah,
Remember the typhoons? There were a lot of people lost in that.
Well, we left. We were going to replenish supplies and all. I pulled in to do that, and they said immediate orders came. Leave immediately. Typhoon coming in, and so you go to sea to weather them. And that's what we had to do with this sort of thing. And we went to sea in the typhoon, and that's an experience. I lost our mast with all the activity of trying to stay afloat. We made it. We got to Korea. And we were so broken down by then, all they used us for was a mailboat in the harbor. Yeah, but that's where you learned further treatment, mistreatment that you get from regular Navy, regular guys. We're from a lowly landing craft, and that's the way they took us. We were lowest degree in the Navy to be in amphibians. So. We made it through borrowing, trading movies, and one time there was a Coast Guard ship in, and our signalman had made arrangements to send a small boat to us. We put on a Liberty party, take them to they see their movies, and he'd made the arrangements. And we come on board, get on board. They're super squiffy thing, the officers are all come aboard, sir. Who gave you people permission to come on board? Yeah. And so we go through the harangue. We made made the deck officer so mad that he had to accept us. And so here our scungy guys were in their grubby Navy ordinary clothes come on board, and they didn't like that.